As Sarah tearfully prepared to say goodbye to her beloved dog Luna, she wasn't ready for what happened next. Out of nowhere, Luna gently wrapped his furry paws around her waist, holding on in one final lingering hug. The vet, who had seen many goodbyes before, paused at the sight of this one. He held off on giving the final injection. Then, just moments later, he said something that stopped everyone in their tracks. Sarah could hardly believe what she'd just heard. Sarah's dog Luna had been by her side for the past 6 years. He'd been her steady companion through all of life's ups and downs. She got him as a birthday present when she turned 15. Back then, Luna was just a tiny, scrappy puppy, and Sarah was an awkward teen trying to figure herself out. From the start, they'd been inseparable. Now, Sarah was driving him to the vet. It would be his final car ride. To make it special, she played his favorite music and rolled the window down so Luna could feel the breeze in his fur. During the whole drive, Sarah kept glancing at him, not sure how she'd face life without him. Wanting to hold off the goodbye just a little longer, Sarah pulled into a local drive-thru. It was partly to stall and partly to give Luna one last little treat. When they pulled up, Luna's ears perked up and his tail started wagging. He knew this place. Sarah ordered him a big puppuccino, basically just a cup full of whipped cream. Luna loved them, and today she wasn't holding back. After licking up every last drop, Luna gave a satisfied sigh. Sarah knew it was time. Swallowing hard, she turned the car back toward the vet's office. Luna, always sensitive to her emotions, gave a soft sigh of his own and rested his head gently on her leg. When they arrived, Sarah took a few deep breaths before stepping out of the car. Luna followed her calmly, as if he understood what was happening. A kind-faced vet assistant met them with a gentle smile and led them into the examination room, where the veterinarian was already waiting. They sat together for a moment, the vet giving them time to settle in before starting. "I'm so sorry," the doctor said softly, glancing down at Luna. "We had hoped that maybe another vet might have an answer. But no one did." That extra week with Luna had been a gift. The vet had never seen a case like his in such a young dog. She had reached out to others in her field, hoping someone might offer a cure, or at least an idea. A few vets had replied, but none had any solutions. Some never replied at all. That's how Sarah and Luna found themselves here today, facing the unthinkable. Sarah didn't want Luna to suffer. She had made the heartbreaking decision to let him go peacefully, before things got worse. The vet walked her through the process gently, explaining each step, and then asked her to sign some paperwork. After a short talk, Sarah and Luna followed the vet into the treatment room. The vet had Luna lie down on a soft cushion to make sure he was as comfortable as possible. Sarah sat beside him and gently pulled him onto her lap, stroking his fur as she whispered her final goodbye. She kissed the top of his head, holding back tears. Then, to everyone's surprise, Luna slowly wrapped his paws around Sarah, clinging to her in one last, tender hug. The vet, who had just finished preparing the injection, paused mid-motion, clearly moved. She knelt beside them, ready to begin, but then stopped. She shook her head slightly. "We might be making a mistake," she said, voice steady but unsure. The syringe trembled a little in her hand. "Something about this doesn't feel right." She looked from Luna to Sarah, clearly torn. Then she quietly set the syringe back down on the tray. The room went completely still. No one moved. The moment hung heavy in the air, uncertain, silent. Sarah stared at her, wide-eyed. "What do you mean?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The sudden change in the vet's tone had left her reeling. She didn't know what to think, and Luna, still tucked in her arms, seemed calm and unaware of how serious everything was. His tail wagged gently, adding to the surreal feeling in the room. Then the door burst open. The vet's assistant ran in, nearly out of breath, clutching a sheet of paper. "Wait!" She gasped, eyes wide. "Stop!" Everyone turned to her, stunned. The assistant took a moment to catch her breath, then handed the paper to the vet. A vet just replied, "The one we were waiting on." The vet scanned the page quickly, her eyes moving faster as her expression began to shift. The air in the room changed. This might be what we've been hoping for," she said, her tone rising with cautious hope. She looked at Sarah. "Come here. Let's look at this together." They all gathered around a laptop, Sarah, the vet, and the assistant. The vet pulled up an email from Dr. Mark McGinn, a specialist who had finally gotten back to them. As she read it out loud, it became clear. His diagnosis was different. There was a small but real chance Luna's condition wasn't what they feared. Sarah felt something stir inside her. Hope. The vet leaned back, her expression thoughtful. "We'll need to run more tests," she said, looking from Sarah to Luna. "But if Dr. McGinn is right, there might be another way." She explained that Dr. McGinn was based in Scotland, and he was considered the best for this kind of case. Sarah's heart lifted at the thought, but then it hit her. Scotland. That wasn't a quick drive. It was across the ocean. Still, the chance to save Luna made all those worries feel smaller. "The clinic is far," the vet said gently. "It's not going to be easy." Sarah's thoughts were spinning. How to get there, how much it would cost, how fast they'd need to move. But in the middle of all that, something in her settled. "If there's a chance, we have to take it," she said quietly, mostly to herself. Luna looked up and gave a small bark, nudging her hand with his nose. It was like he was saying, "Let's do this." Sarah looked down at Luna, her decision solidified by his quiet encouragement. She turned to the vet. "Can Luna handle the trip?" The vet nodded, reassuring her that they'd manage his pain and prepare everything needed to keep him comfortable. A round of tests followed to make sure he could travel safely. The vet gave Sarah a list of medications to help manage Luna's condition during the flight. "He's strong enough to make the journey," the vet said, handing her a detailed care plan. As Sarah picked up the meds and supplies, she felt a swirl of nerves and hope. Her thoughts were already racing ahead to the next steps. Before they left, the vet and her assistant pulled them both into warm, emotional hugs. "We're rooting for you," the vet said softly, her eyes misty with emotion. The assistant squeezed Sarah's hand and added, "Safe travels?" Their kindness wrapped around Sarah like a blanket, giving her the strength she needed as she stepped outside with Luna. It felt like they were heading into something unknown, but full of possibility. Before leaving, Sarah and the vet sat down together to write an email to Dr. McGinn. They carefully explained Luna's condition and let him know they were willing to travel for his help. After hitting send, the sense of urgency felt real. "He's quick to respond," the vet assured her with a nod. Sarah held on to that hope tightly. This first step was the beginning of something big. The vet and assistant gathered around Luna again, showering him with pets and quiet encouragement. "You're going on a big adventure, buddy," the assistant whispered, rubbing behind his ears. Their warmth lifted Sarah's spirits. It gave her the strength to push past the fear. Before she left, the vet and assistant loaded her up with everything Luna might need: medication, instructions, and contact info for Dr. McGinn. "You've got this, Sarah," the vet said as she handed over a packet with Luna's medical history neatly organized inside. Sarah took it with both hands, her heart full of gratitude and a new sense of purpose. This was more than just a trip. It was a fight for a chance. And Scotland somehow didn't feel quite so far away anymore. In the car, Luna sat quietly beside her, calm as ever. Sarah glanced at him and said, We're going to do everything we can." Luna nudged her hand in response, gentle and steady. It was like he understood. That quiet moment between them cemented Sarah's determination. She started the car, ready for whatever came next. On the way home, she made a few important calls. First, to her mom. She explained everything: the condition, the plan, the trip. "I'm behind you," her mom said without hesitation. Then she called Kelly, her best friend. Without missing a beat, Kelly offered to help in any way she could. Sarah felt the support wrapping around her, making this huge step feel just a bit more manageable. Not long after, Kelly showed up at her door, bags in hand. "I'm coming with you," she said, full of quiet determination. Just seeing her brought Sarah to the edge of tears. Hope and relief mixed in her chest. With Kelly by her side, the mission to save Luna felt possible, like they had a real shot. When Kelly knelt to greet Luna, his response was softer than usual, but his tail wagged gently. That quiet moment carried weight. It reminded them both how much was at stake, but also brought a tiny flicker of joy. Kelly's arrival filled the house with energy. Luna picked up on it too. He seemed to know that Kelly wasn't just visiting, she was part of something important now. Luna's soft eyes followed them as they moved around the room, getting everything ready. Sarah and Kelly packed side by side, each of them focused but quiet, their movements forming a kind of rhythm. There was no need for many words. The living room was scattered with everything they'd need for the trip, and every single item was chosen with Luna in mind. This wasn't just packing, it became something deeper. Each decision showed how much they cared, their shared love for Luna pulling them through the emotional mess of it all. Luna watched from his spot, calm and steady, a quiet reminder of what they were doing this for. Just his presence gave them strength. With every bag zipped and every list checked, Sarah and Kelly shifted from talking to doing. They were ready. Luna's silent encouragement had pushed them across the starting line. That night, the one before they left, was filled with both worry and comfort. The bond between the three of them, Sarah, Kelly, and Luna, felt stronger than ever. They were all in this together. Sarah couldn't sleep much. Her mind kept playing out all the things that could go wrong. Still, even in her worry, the purpose behind it all gave her something to hold on to. By morning, the full weight of what they were about to do finally settled in. Sarah and Kelly moved through the morning almost on autopilot, quick breakfasts, last-minute checks, reviewing the plan one more time. Their bodies were tired, but their focus stayed clear. This was it. The beginning of a journey they hoped would change everything. Before heading out, they took Luna on a short, quiet walk. It was a peaceful pause before things got hectic. Then they loaded the car and set off for the airport. The ride was filled with silence, the heavy kind. Luna curled up in the back seat, sensing the tension, but stayed calm and still. Parking at the airport took longer than they hoped, adding a little extra stress to an already nerve-wracking day. Once inside, Sarah and Kelly handled the security lines, the check-ins, and the waiting. All the little challenges that now felt much bigger because of what they were carrying emotionally. Each step felt like a hurdle, a tiny battle in the larger fight they were in to save Luna. The noise and movement of the airport faded into the background. Their focus never left Luna or the goal ahead. Sitting at the gate, they held their flight tickets quietly, both of them lost in thought. The reality of what they were doing settled in deeper. This wasn't just a trip. It was a lifeline. Boarding the plane with Luna, Sarah felt the weight of it all. Luna's condition was serious, and this flight felt like a gamble, a leap toward something better. They were stepping into the unknown, but with hope lighting the way. The flight dragged on. Sarah couldn't sleep. Her mind was stuck in a loop of worry and what-ifs. Even her dreams, when they came, were full of flashes, Fear, hope, the unknown. Luna, though, slept quietly through the entire flight, completely at peace, unaware of all the concern wrapped around him. Sarah kept an eye on him the whole time, her thoughts a swirl of fear and determination. Every bump in the air brought them closer to something they hoped would save him. When the plane finally landed in Scotland, they didn't waste time. They picked up a rental car and hit the road, focused on getting to Dr. McGinn's clinic as soon as possible. Driving on the left side was tricky at first, but they pushed through the awkwardness, their goal keeping them sharp. The unfamiliar scenery outside the windows didn't distract them. Instead, they kept their eyes on the road and their minds on what mattered. Along the way, they talked about Luna, his habits, his funny moments, his gentle way of being. There were laughs, and there were a few tears. They remembered the time he spun in circles chasing his tail, and how his little snore used to fill the room during quiet nights. These stories brought warmth to the car and reminded them, with every mile, why they had come so far. Far from home now, as they neared Edinburgh, the beautiful landscape gave them a short break from the weight they'd been carrying. Rolling hills, wide skies. It was the first time in days they had paused to really notice their surroundings. They stopped just outside the city, hoping that a quick meal and a quiet moment might take the edge off their stress. They tried to get Luna to play a little, to see if any of his old energy would show up. But he was too tired. He wagged his tail just once, then slowly lay back down. The spark just wasn't there. And that small moment reminded them again why they were here. The clinic itself was tucked away in nature, trees surrounding it, and a peaceful lake nearby. It was beautiful, calm. But for Sarah, the stillness outside was a sharp contrast to the worry churning inside her. They took Luna for a short walk through the grounds, but he barely made it a few steps. Kelly gently lifted him, carrying him the rest of the way. The quiet of the place made it all feel more real. Dr. Mark McGinn welcomed them with a steady calmness. He had a warm presence, but he also didn't waste time. It was clear from the start that he understood both the seriousness and the urgency of their visit. As they sat down to talk about Luna's condition and current meds, his knowledge and thoughtful questions brought a flicker of hope. That first meeting, full of medical talk and gentle understanding, felt like a turning point. A possible way forward was finally taking shape. Inside the exam room, Mark shared his thoughts. He questioned the earlier diagnoses and laid out a plan for deeper testing. He explained why he wasn't convinced by what the other vets had said. His confidence made Sarah and Kelly sit up straighter. It was the first time someone had challenged the idea that Luna's future was already written. Mark's suggestion for more tests opened up a new possibility. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe, just maybe, there was something they'd missed. Watching Luna go through the exam was tough, but seeing him in Mark's careful, capable hands gave them both a strange sense of calm. The exam took time. Mark didn't rush a thing. That alone spoke volumes. When it was over, Mark explained what he needed to do next. He'd have to run a set of more advanced tests. Sarah didn't hesitate. Even though she was nervous, the chance to find something different, anything that might help, was more important than her fear. Her quick yes showed how deeply she was committed to Luna's care, no matter what it took. Waiting for the test results was the hardest part. Time dragged. They sat with their nerves tightly wound, unsure of what they'd hear. Sensing their tension, Mark brought out tea and cookies, a simple act of kindness that meant more than he probably realized. It gave them a small pocket of normal in a week that had been anything but. As they sipped their tea, Sarah and Kelly shared the full story of how they'd come to be there. Mark listened thoughtfully, then opened up about his own path, why he became a vet, and how much his clinic meant to him. The conversation flowed, easing some of the tension. Personal stories mixed with professional ones, giving them a glimpse into the care and dedication behind his work. Mark gently reminded them that the final test would take some time. Seeing how drained they both looked after everything they'd been through, he offered to let them stay the night. It was an unexpected kindness and a huge relief. A place to rest, a chance to breathe. Saying yes to Mark's offer felt like a small but welcome ray of hope in their long search for answers. Grateful for the kindness, Sarah and Kelly grabbed their suitcases from the car and settled into a cozy staff room with bunk beds. Mark had already thought of everything. He even brought in a soft dog bed for Luna, making sure he had a comfortable place to rest too. Later, he invited them to join him for dinner, extending his hospitality even further. The simple invitation made them feel cared for and at ease. Since Mark lived close to the clinic, they all went for a quiet walk through the nearby forest before dinner. As they walked, the peaceful surroundings seemed to ease their minds. They chatted about their shared love of animals and nature, and for a little while, the stress of the past few days faded into the background. At dinner, Mark introduced them to his wife, which added to the warmth of the evening. Luna quickly made a new friend in Max, Mark's dog. The two dogs played gently together, bringing some much-needed joy into the room. Mark had even cooked the meal himself, and the care he'd put into it made Sarah and Kelly feel like part of the family. After they ate, Mark offered a reassuring update. The test results would be ready by morning. The chance to finally understand what was going on with Luna, to confirm or rule out his suspicions, gave Sarah a quiet sense of hope. That night, they returned to the clinic carrying a tired Luna. He'd had so much fun with Max that he didn't have the energy to walk. The clinic was quiet and still, the kind of silence that wraps around you. Inside, they gently placed Luna in his bed, tucking him in and making sure he was warm and comfortable. Sarah and Kelly moved slowly, their actions soft and deliberate. The emotional weight of the day hung in the air. Just before Sarah climbed into the top bunk, Kelly reached out and pulled her into a hug. It wasn't dramatic or tearful, just a quiet moment of support, the kind that said, "I'm here." The hug opened something in Sarah. Her fears came spilling out, how afraid she was of hoping too much, of believing things might get better, only to be heartbroken. Kelly didn't say much at first, just listened. Then she gently reminded Sarah of how far they'd come and how much she trusted Mark's expertise. Her quiet confidence helped steady Sarah. They talked for a while, honest, emotional words mixed with long silences. Slowly, Sarah's tears faded, and a calmer strength took their place. Eventually, they each climbed into bed. But sleep didn't come easy. Sarah lay in the dark, her thoughts spinning. Every creak of the old building, every shift in Luna's breathing, made the minutes crawl. Her mind kept drifting to worst-case scenarios, but underneath all the fear, there was still that thin thread of hope. When morning finally came, Sarah felt the weight of a sleepless night pressing down on her. She sat up slowly, her body heavy with exhaustion. Kelly was still asleep, but Luna was awake, looking at her quietly. His eyes met hers, calm and steady, like he knew what she needed. Wanting some air, Sarah took Luna out for a gentle walk to the lake nearby. The water was still, the world around them soft and quiet. But Luna tired quickly. Sarah helped him onto a bench, then sat beside him, wrapping her arms gently around his body. For a few minutes, everything paused. The lake shimmered in the early light, and the warmth of Luna against her side gave her a sliver of peace she hadn't felt in days. Mark found them there not long after. With a warm "good morning," he sat beside Sarah on the bench, joining them in the quiet, letting the peace of the morning settle around them. The quiet of the morning was gently broken by the sound of a timer on Mark's phone. It meant the test results were ready. Though he stayed calm, there was a new sense of urgency in the way they stood, and began walking back toward the clinic. Everything now hinged on what those results would reveal. When they returned, Kelly was already awake, waiting. Without needing to say much, they all knew they'd face this moment together. Inside the exam room, they gathered around Luna, gently stroking his fur and whispering soft words of encouragement. Mark prepared the final test, placing the tube into the machine and setting it to run. The routine of the action felt almost too normal for what it meant. The machine buzzed and beeped, creating a rhythm that only added to the tension. Mark used the moment to explain the process, his voice calm and steady, a grounding presence in the background of anxious thoughts. He moved to make coffee for them, offering a simple comfort as they waited. That small act, sharing a warm drink in such a tense moment, quietly brought them closer. It reminded them they weren't alone in hoping for a good outcome. Suddenly, the machine fell silent. The test was complete. Mark handed Sarah and Kelly their coffee, then walked over to grab the freshly printed test results. The paper, full of technical terms and numbers, held everything they had been waiting for. Every breath in the room seemed to pause. As Mark read through the results, the silence grew thicker. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The seconds dragged, stretching longer than they really were. Everyone waited, hanging on his every movement. Then, slowly, a smile spread across Mark's face. It started small, but it was real. Sarah leaned forward, eyes wide, not daring to hope too fast. Mark's expression changed everything. The air in the room shifted, from tight and heavy to light, like a window had opened. "Luna has a different illness," Mark said, his voice calm but full of good news. "It's treatable. In younger dogs, it can mimic something far more serious." The words landed like a miracle. What they thought had been the end turned out to be something else entirely. A mistake had almost led them to say goodbye. But now there was a path forward, a way for Luna to not just survive, but live well. Sarah's relief came fast and full. Tears streamed down her face as she stood to hug Mark, her gratitude spilling out in every movement. Then she turned to Luna, kneeling beside him and wrapping her arms around his soft body. He looked up at her, tail wagging, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. The clinic, which had once felt like a place of endings, now felt full of life. Laughter and quiet joy filled the room. The fear had lifted, and in its place was something new. Hope. Luna's journey had taken them all to the edge, only to bring them back with a renewed future. With a clear treatment plan and the promise of many healthy years ahead, Sarah, Kelly, and Luna left the clinic with full hearts, ready for whatever came next. They had made it through the darkest part and found light on the other side. If Luna's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring animal stories. Every story we tell is a reminder of hope, kindness, and never giving up.